Okay, so we are in the final tweaking stages of our video. We've put down our A-roll, our B-roll, we've added our simple graphics, our end screen, our intro, all of that. And now we want to color correct our video. And we're going to do that in a very simple way. Color correction and color grading can get as epic as you want it to, but again, this is a how-to video. We're just gonna keep it pretty basic. We're not gonna go too ham on color correction in this. This is just an intro to get you used to it. So we wanna make sure our Lumetri scopes are available as well. Usually they will be in this left pane, but again, if they don't show up, it's really easy to have them show up. Just go to Window in the top area and hit Lumetri scopes. With our Lumetri scopes up and our Lumetri color panel showing as well, let's go ahead and just click on this clip. This is a good clip. I think this is like the intro clip that I have. And you'll see as I scrub through the clip, you can see our Lumetri scopes start to move around a little bit, which is cool. You'll use this to gauge the different color correcting tools that we're going to use. And we're really not gonna do too much with this because again, it's already pretty balanced. We're just going to mess around with the blacks, the whites, maybe check the white balance a little bit and do a little bit of exposure. So, and that will be our color correcting. With the blacks, you're gonna go to this tab. With the blacks, what you're really looking for is you usually want the blacks to hit right at 0. Now again, we don't have a crazy awesome monitor that's been calibrated to be the best color grades and all that kind of stuff, but whatever you're editing on is probably fine because it'll probably be similar to the phone that you end up watching this final video on or the computer you end up watching this final video on, so it should be okay. You have to start somewhere, okay? So we want to make sure that our blacks are just touching 0. And right about there is pretty good. You want to see that it's just kind of skimming 0 with our blacks. And then similarly with our whites, you want to make sure they're just skimming 100. So that's going to bring the whites down to about there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's pretty good. So our whites are about there, our blacks are there. I think our overall exposure is pretty good as well. I might drop it down a skosh. So we're really just kissing our 100 and 0 just a little bit. And then the other thing I usually like to play around with my color correction is the contrast. Depending on what kind of camera you're using and your picture profiles and all this other stuff that you may or may not get into ever. So I generally like a little bit more contrast to my footage. So as you can see, what the contrast does too is it spreads out. You see how it spreads out the colors even more, so it's more dramatic. And so again, I don't want to add too much. I really like that. And it's pretty color balanced now. So if I want to take it off so you can see what the footage was before, I just hit this little check mark. So that's what it was before, and that's what it is now. You see before how it was a little more flat, and now just by playing around with the whites, the blacks, the contrast, and a smidge of exposure, it already looks a little bit more vibrant, a little more fun, very straightforward. So I think this is pretty good, and I think this is a pretty good standard to have the rest of the footage be. And as we continue to go through and watch, we can make tweaks to different clips, but I think overall this is going to probably be good for most of the video. Again, work smarter, not harder. We are going to go ahead and go to our effects control panel, and you can see the Lumetri colors that we've been playing around with here for this clip are now over in the effects control panel because we did stuff. These are effects that we have added to the footage. We're gonna highlight it. We're gonna hit Command C, Control C on a PC. Then we're going to come down to our timeline. We're going to hit the A key. And you remember the A key highlights everything from where it is placed beyond. Obviously we don't wanna do it to all of our graphics and things like that. So when we hit the A key this time, we're gonna hold down Shift. And you see that makes it just one arrow now. And it's this one arrow, we have it right hovering over our video track 1, right? So then we're gonna hit the key one more time, and you see while I have shift held down and I've hit the mouse one more time, and now it is just highlighting only that row, okay? And then we are gonna hit, you guessed it, Command V, Control V on a PC, and you can see how all the little FX here, they all turned purple. That means that it has now added that color correction that we had on this one clip. It has added it to all those other clips now. And so now you can see all the clips just from that row have the balance. So that works out really well. That's great. Now, when we go to our B-roll, we're gonna turn this green off for now. Now our B-roll, I feel like our B-roll is pretty close too, so let's just go ahead and Command V, Control V. Yeah, that doesn't look bad. I think this color correction will work for our B-roll as well. So yeah, this actually looks really, we're gonna add it to another one. I'm not mad at that. So what we're gonna do then is go to the V2 layer, right? Hit our A again. Hit Shift, hold down Shift, so it's just our B-roll layer. Do that so you can see. Hold down Shift, so it's just our B-roll layer. It's just these clips here. Hit Command V, Control V on a PC, and voila. It has now, and you can see, you know that it has added the effect because they turned purple. And now we've added that color correction to all of our clips. Now, again, you can go in and sort of tweak things to your liking. That looks like it matches pretty well, seamlessly, when you go from your A roll to your B roll. I think the B roll is a little orange compared to the A roll. Just a little bit. So I'm gonna click on that clip and I'm gonna just bring it back a little more towards the blue and the temperature. And that, put to Leica, is Marble Nugget. That feels a little more seamless to me. And you can go through and kind of begin to do those little minor tweaks based on watching the whole thing and making those minor tweaks. But because you already had it pretty much balanced, you're just going through and making minor tweaks. You're not having to go through and literally color correct every clip. Now that's color correcting. Correcting anything that maybe while you were filming didn't go so well and you need to kind of balance things out. Once that's kind of done though, you usually end up wanting to maybe give an overall style or an overall look to the piece. So now that everything kind of is matched and looks like it fits together seamlessly and is pretty clean, pretty accurate, color accurate, now you can begin to play around with adding an overall look to the entire video. So I'm going to show you how to do that too. To do that, we are going to go down to the new item tool at the bottom, and we're going to click it, and we're going to hit adjustment layer. Again, it's going to bring up a box that is basically going to just copy and replicate whatever the sequence is, the settings within your sequence. So you're hardly ever probably going to change that. So go ahead and click OK. You'll see this brings up the adjustment layer, and we're going to bring it onto a layer that is just above everything we've done. Everything, the whole project we've done, and we're gonna stretch it out to cover the entire project as well. So all the way to the last clip, because we want whatever we do on this layer, again, to affect everything underneath it. And here, while the adjustment layer is highlighted, we're gonna go to our Lumetri color panel, and we're gonna, instead of playing around with the basic color correction, because we've done that already, we've done that for all the clips, they're good, we're gonna go to the Creative tab. And here is where you can start to play around with giving your overall vibe or color to the footage that you want. And this is more of a style. This begins to be color grading, not color correcting. And this really just depends on what your vibe is, what your mood is. I'll show you a few that I really enjoy. I tend to use clean Kodak a lot. I feel like it looks very good. I feel like it adds a little bit of a softness to my footage that looks really nice. Again, here it is without it, and then here it is with it. And there's a slight tweak of warmth to it that I really like. Another one that I play around with a lot is the Kodak 2395 by Adobe. And that gives you a little bit more of this like interesting kind of monochromy, filmy kind of grain. And I'll usually play around with the intensity of it. I'll maybe only have it at like 50%. And I tend to like that a lot in some of my videos. And here it is without it. Here it is with it. And then another one that I like to play around with too is Clean Codec B. Again, this one feels a little more saturated to me. It really brings out a lot of the saturation and color and really pumps the contrast to an interesting level that I like. And again, I'll play around with the intensity of it depending on what my mood is and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of different looks that you can begin to play around with to really add something to your footage or give your overall video a vibe of just what kind of mood you're in. One thing I will say is, remember, this is a how-to video. You don't want to go too epic on the color grading, which again is just an artistic preference of how you want the end product to look. You want your color grading to have a purpose. You don't want it to just look a certain way just because it looks a certain way. Are you trying to maybe create a feeling of coldness, like to be cold and to be, you know, kind of scared or something like that? Maybe you bump up the blues of what you're filming. Or maybe you're in a space and you want it to feel warm and inviting, so maybe you play around with one of the looks that is all about oranges and things like that. So make sure you're having some rhyme or reason to the color grading that you add to your footage. Or maybe it's just as simple as, this is a instructional video. I just want to make sure it's balanced really well and I'm lit well and you can see me and you can see what I'm doing very well, and that's it. I just want to create a very neutral look. But you can begin to play around with that, and all of the things you do to this creative panel here will just be on top of this adjustment layer, and when you turn it off, it's gone. So play around with that, have fun with it, but again, remember, have some rhyme or reason to what you're doing. Don't just go ham on color grading just to go ham. Remember what purpose the video is serving. If it's a how-to video, it probably just needs to be neutral and lit very well, and maybe you pick a color look that intensifies that neutral, nice lighting that you did.